The ER doors slammed open as paramedics rushed in a patient on a gurney. Blood poured from a deep gash in the man's thigh, soaking through towels that were already crimson. His face was pale, his pulse weak. I grabbed gloves from the dispenser and shoved my way to the bedside, barking for suction, IV access, and clamps. "Arterial bleed, femoral," the medic shouted, jogging beside the bed as we pushed it into trauma room 2. "Let's move. We don't have time," I said, pressing my hands into the wound to slow the flow. Warm blood surged against my palm, slick and hot, but I held steady. The attending physician, Dr. Richard Hale, stumbled into the room. His lab coat hung loose, his eyes glassy, his face red. He fumbled for gloves, muttering half-formed orders. "Need imaging. Get radiology," he slurred. "We don't need imaging, we need control now," I snapped. The resident froze, glancing at him, then back at me. "Clamp ready," I said, and the tech slapped it into my hand. I guided the resident's hands. "Here, angle down, lock it, good. Suction now. Hang 2 units. Oh, negative." Richard swayed near the head of the bed, leaning on the counter, mumbling, "Pressure, yeah, pressure, we'll see." He wasn't leading. He wasn't even fully present. I locked eyes with the charge nurse. She saw it too. We stabilized the patient, slowed the bleed, secured lines, and prepped for surgery. The gurney rolled upstairs. Everyone exhaled, but Richard remained unsteady, his words broken, his judgment clouded. I knew then this wasn't fatigue. This was alcohol. The waiting room overflowed with patients. Police dragged in a suspect screaming about broken ribs. A toddler wheezed in his mother's arms. A man clutched his chest, sweat beading on his forehead. Nurses moved fast. Residents triaged. Monitors beeped in every bay. In the middle of the storm, Richard stumbled from patient to patient, giving contradictory orders. "Chest pain? Order antibiotics," he said. "No," I corrected quickly. "EKG, troponins, oxygen, aspirin." "Move." I guided the resident with my hand on his shoulder. Richard's face twisted with confusion, then irritation. I gave the order. He muttered. "You gave the wrong one," I said under my breath, already moving to the next bed. At midnight, EMS wheeled in an elderly woman, gasping, her oxygen saturation plummeting, blood pressure dropping, skin clammy, classic signs of a massive pulmonary embolism. "She's crashing," I shouted, throwing on high-flow oxygen, slapping pads on her chest. Richard staggered forward. Get chest X-ray," he said. "She needs anticoagulation immediately," I countered, pulling up her chart, already prepping the IV. "I said X-ray!" he roared, slamming the counter with his hand. The resident froze, torn. The woman's breaths rattled, each one weaker than the last. "Start heparin now," I whispered urgently to the resident. He hesitated, then nodded, drawing up the syringe. Richard's head snapped toward me, his eyes bloodshot. "Who told you?" "Do it." I cut him off. The syringe slid into the IV line, medication flowing. The monitors steadied slightly, her oxygen holding. The charge nurse appeared at my side. "We can't keep this going," she whispered. "Call security," I answered, my voice low. "Now." 2 security officers arrived minutes later, standing discreetly at the nurse's station. The nursing supervisor came too, pale, tight-lipped, clutching paperwork. Protocol was in motion. I returned to the bedside. The resident worked steadily, following my lead. Richard loomed, glaring, his balance unsteady. "Who started the heparin?" he demanded, voice thick, spittle on his lip. "I did," I said flatly. His chest rose and fell, rage boiling. He took 1 step toward me, then another. His fists clenched. For a second, I thought he might swing. Security moved into the doorway. "Dr. Hale, step outside with us," one officer said firmly. This is insubordination, he slurred, pointing at me. She's undermining me. I'll report her. Doctor, I said, steady, never breaking eye contact. You're not well. You need to stop. Now? The room was silent except for the monitor's steady beep and the patient's shallow breaths. Residents stood frozen, waiting to see what would happen. Richard's shoulders sagged. His eyes dropped. He ripped off his gloves and shoved past the officers, storming down the hall. Security followed. We exhaled. I adjusted the patient's oxygen, checked her vitals, gave calm orders to the resident. Call CT angio, but keep the drip running. Monitor SATs. Good work. The rest of the shift blurred into relentless motion. The chest pain patient got his aspirin and was rushed to cath lab. The toddler with croup stabilized on nebulizers. The prisoner screamed, cursed, demanded water, while we set his rib fracture. Each case needed attention, precision, calm hands. I moved bed to bed, chart to chart, guiding younger staff, checking meds twice, lifting, pushing, pulling. Meanwhile, administrators huddled behind closed doors. Another attending was paged in, arriving near 2 a.m. to take over. Word spread fast among staff. Whispers filled the hallways. Nurses exchanged grim looks. Residents looked shaken, confused, angry. But the ER doesn't stop for scandal. At 3 a.m., a multi-vehicle collision hit us. Stretchers poured through the ambulance bay. Blood, glass, screaming. One woman pinned with broken ribs, another unconscious with a head bleed, a teenager with both arms snapped. We mobilized like a machine. X-rays slammed onto screens, IV bags hung from poles, sutures snapped into place. My back ached, my hands cramped, sweat stung my eyes. I forgot about Richard for hours, lost in the grind of crisis. It wasn't until dawn, when the flood slowed, that I thought of him again. The sun seeped through high windows, painting the ER in pale gold. Empty coffee cups littered the station. My scrubs were stiff with blood. I sat for the first time in hours, my body heavy, but my mind racing. Richard was gone, suspended, his career in flames. I replayed the night in my head. His slurred words, his staggering gait, his misplaced orders. The anger in his eyes when I defied him, the way his shoulders finally slumped as he left. I had respected him once. He had taught me techniques in trauma bay, saved lives with calm brilliance, guided residents with a sharp mind. But beneath it all, he had been drinking, hiding, slipping deeper until the bottle spoke louder than his training. I didn't feel proud. I felt grim. Because protecting patients had meant tearing down a colleague. But I'd do it again. As I stood to check on the last patients before shift change, the truth settled heavy but certain. Being a nurse means standing guard, even against those you once trusted. Loyalty to a team can never outweigh loyalty to the people gasping for life in our hands.